B2B sales isn't a skill you can just pick up by attending a workshop. It takes practice, dedication, and time to master. The problem is that the training most salespeople get isn't effective. Over 90% of workshop and seminar content is forgotten within 30 days. However, there is a better way. Unlike other sales training programs, our Momentium system combines traditional teaching techniques, an interactive sales simulator, and video conference coaching. Allowing salespeople to learn and practice new skills is what sets us apart from other training providers. Our training programs have proven to be more effective than any workshop or seminar. We improve sales forces, guaranteed. Each week, your salespeople will complete one training module, which consists of several lessons and simulated sales calls. Each module requires learners to learn new concepts, practice those concepts in simulated sales calls, and confirm their understanding in recap sessions and video conference coaching. First, the Coaching Academy contains short, interactive, and focused lessons that will teach salespeople the skills and techniques they need to be successful. We devote time to core concepts and advanced tools every salesperson needs to know. Every concept is delivered one at a time, ensuring salespeople have a chance to practice concepts before moving on to new ones. After learning a new skill, salespeople must complete a series of 3 lifelike sales calls where they open, develop, and close a deal.
Christy, what do you think is the single biggest development opportunity for your sales force?
Our team members are tech experts who traditionally relied on their tech knowledge to sell. More and more, we are dealing with non-IT people who need a different approach.
Momentium provides learners the opportunity to put techniques into practice immediately. This develops better habits leading to greater sales success. After successfully completing the sales simulation in each module, you'll review the key factors that led to the success in those sales calls. This guided reflection is crucial when it comes to creating long-term mastery. Beyond being the most effective sales training system available today, organizations that use Momentium enjoy several other benefits as well. The online training lets us track and record activity within each module. We use this information to benchmark your team's performance and show you how each of your salespeople are improving.
And with this, I'd like to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, our third keynote speaker, Mr. Veqar. He's a director and CEO of Jaffer Business Systems, a major IT company having HP, Emerson, Oracle, Microsoft as its key partners. In addition, he is also the president of Touchpoint, offering self-service, business intelligence, analytics services, call center solutions based on Genesys and VAS platforms. Further, he is a founder of Hisab Kitab and a director at Blue Tech Consulting and 40Pay. A corporate leader turned entrepreneur. Previously, he was the senior vice president and member executive board for Comptel Corporation. He also held position of sub-region head, vice president for Nokia Siemens Networks for Gulf, Levant, Iraq, Iran, and Pakistan region. Before moving to the MEA region, he was a country director for Nokia Networks, Nokia Siemens Networks, and NCR Corporation in Pakistan. Veqar Islam Sahab, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and or your acceptance to share your valuable thoughts with the audience, especially the sales professionals community at large. I will now leave you with your keynote, and hope you will do a fabulous job with it, and then inshallah we'll catch up with the panel discussion afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Afan. So I think the topic is about sales leadership in the new normal, or in the new now, as they claim. I think before we get into it, we need to see what has changed. And we need to slightly put on the landscape what has happened in last 4 months or 5 months for that matter, in a country like Pakistan, where a typical starting point of any conversation is that this is Pakistan and things will not change. They will more or less stay the way they are. And with that mindset, we actually haven't changed. But COVID did something quite unreal. It actually changed those entrenched mindset and more or less forced people to change. And that's an interesting thing that has happened in the country. I have personally seen people queuing to get served in this country, something I've never seen before. I have actually seen people wearing masks in public, not all of them, but many of them, uh, to make sure that not just they protect themselves, but they also protect their fellow citizens. I've seen people moving away from large, crowded physical spaces and trying to find and keep their life and living going, moving towards alternate mediums. This is what has happened, and not just it has happened around the world, but it has also happened in this country called Pakistan. Uh, so it is very important to understand, what has changed before we move towards sales leadership. The other thing that has changed is that physical world has shrunk. And this is an important point to remember. Pakistan or countries like Pakistan, which are more entrenched into old ways of working, are very manual, very paper driven. They love the physical world. More or less, we actually don't believe that a digital world was also created over a number of years, and it has in many countries actually matured to a level that there are two distinct worlds available. One is called the physical world, and the other is called the digital world. What COVID has done to countries like Pakistan, that it has created that world which we were resisting for a long time, that now digital world is a reality. And this reality is not going to change. It doesn't matter whether COVID is there or it's not there. Now, there are two distinct worlds, even in Pakistan. One is a physical world and one is a digital world. And it's the blend which will take us forward for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And the blend will continue to vary, possibly more in the direction of digital and less in the direction of physical. And that's the way the world is going. That's the way this country is going to go. And COVID has accelerated that change. Now, coming to the sales, what has happened in sales? Sales in our kind of world, because we are a physical world country, has been a very personal interaction led, people in the field led kind of an industry. And if you don't, if you're not out in the field, more or less it is believed that you are not working or you will not be able to get the outcome that you desire. Now, with the fact that a digital world is now created, this mindset needs a complete shift, where we are saying not just you can work while you are in the field, but you can actually work while your mobile phone or your laptop or desktop is in your hand, or is in your access. And if you are not able to do that, you will not be as productive as you were in a typical physical world scenario. So the first change in sales leadership that needs to happen is to accept the existence of the physical and digital world, is to accept that being physically present is not the only way, which means you will produce outcome, but as long as you are present, and it doesn't matter whether you are physically present or virtually present, as long as you are present in front of the customer, who is, by the way, now also available in a virtual manner, you're doing your job and the outcome will happen. Now, this is a massive mindset change for sales leadership in this country in majority, because they have also come from a very physical world experience, physical world mindset. So they cannot believe that anyone who is on a laptop or who is actually working on a mobile is actually working and can produce the outcome. The second point that needs to change with this change that we have seen, is that this body in seat mentality has to go away, and it has to be replaced with an outcome based sales management, or for that matter management philosophy, where you judge people based on the outcome they produce and not on how many hours they are putting in for you, how many hours they put in to produce an outcome. The problem was that we started managing the hours rather than managing the hours. We started managing the number of hours people were putting in rather than managing the outcome for which they were actually hired or for which you invest in people. This COVID has moved that discussion away from number of hours to the outcome that you produce. And once again, for a sales leader to be aware of this is to first accept that this change has actually happened. Now he needs to start managing his sales team for the outcome rather than for how many hours they are putting in, because that in today's world is more or less immaterial. You need to be out there present. It doesn't matter whether you are present physically or virtually, as long as you are present. And if you are present and if you are being managed for the outcome and not on how many hours you are producing, you're doing good. And sales leaders need to then move in that direction. The third point, which again is based on the change, is first for the sales leaders to go through enablement session to understand the realities of the virtual world or the online world or the digital world, which, as I said, in majority, they don't know. And once they are enabled, only then they can enable their sales team and their people, because the coaching for a digital world or enablement for a digital world, while the principles do not change, it does, is very different to the way you do it in the physical world, where you even have ability many a time to go with your salespeople, visit fields, from one shop to the other, or from one office to the other. Here you are doing it all virtually, and you need to find ways of going from one place to the other in a virtual manner and still making sure that the outcome is managed the way you want it to manage. So enablement for yourself is extremely important. And once you've done that, then of course you need to do enablement for your team so that they are ready for the digital world and they are ready for the virtual world, because we in this country for decades have not worked in the virtual world, while the world gradually shifted towards a virtual or a digital world. Now there are, of course, always once you make a shift from one to the other, there are always roadblocks, there are always speed breakers, if you like, and those you need to cover. And one of the big one is that, the moment you move to digital, you start, because you think the physical world doesn't exist and you forget your customer has also come virtual, not just you start becoming a lot more internal focused rather than customer focused. And as a consequence, in organizations, meetings are being held every half an hour, every 1 hour, and your calendar starts to be booked with internal meetings, because somehow you have this perception that the physical world doesn't exist. And since it doesn't exist, why don't I put more focus on internal stuff? And you forget that your competitions are out there in the virtual world taking care of your customers. So it's extremely important not to fall in the trap that if you are not physically present, your customer is not present and he's not buying. He is buying. He is buying exactly like he was buying in the physical world, except that because economy has slowed down, the buying patterns have clearly reduced. And you need to now know that you need to be virtually present, and you need to be closer to the customer and find virtual ways to get there. Fourth point that I want to highlight is about how your KPIs need to change in a dramatically changing world, or in a world which has changed in an unprecedented way. None of us have seen it in our lifetimes. Possibly none of us will see it in our lifetime in future as well, as to what we have gone through in the last 4 or 5 months. And who knows, we'll possibly keep going through it for the next 8 to 12 months. in order for you to realize the changes, your KPIs need to be adjusted accordingly. So as an example, if the business has closed due to, say, the physical nature of the business, for example, a restaurant, right? Now the restaurants are closed. Now you can't go to a restaurant and get served, or you cannot go and sell to a restaurant any of the product because it doesn't exist. Now, asking a salespeople in this environment to sell is possibly a wrong KPI. In this environment, possibly a better KPI will be to find all those restaurant owners and see if there is a way to be closer to them so that they are part of your funnel when their business start to return, or when they start to move towards online delivery, you are there for them to provide them the material, right? So extremely important that you adjust your KPIs with changing situation, and don't believe that the KPIs that you set in normal time are any more valid than what they were when those were set. The other point to again be aware of, and that's again, a typical way of managing these kind of changes, is that, for example, the economy around the globe has shrunk, and it has shrunk in Pakistan as well. Around the globe, for people who do not know, $9 trillion of economy of global economy has shrunk, and $9 trillion equals to the size of Japan and Germany economy. So that's the kind of shrinkage that has happened around the world in terms of economy. What that means to sellers is that there is less money available for them to sell, for customers to buy and for them to sell. Now, if I made an assumption in my target setting or in my outcome setting that the market will buy 100 and suddenly the market is reduced to 70, then my KPI has changed. And it needs to change so that my salespeople are still driven to achieve their targets, still driven to achieve their stretches that you want them to achieve, rather than having a target which is now more or less out of their reach, which demotivates them and which doesn't enable them to stay motivated or stay on course towards achieving the targets. So show flexibility in your approaches as you see these changes. And the last point that I want to talk about is about making sure that you use your policies to shift people behavior in a certain direction. In many cases, I've seen around the world that I've worked, people take policies as a static piece. Please remember that policies are there to shape behavior, and they need to be aligned to your strategy. So as an example, if your strategy this year is to maintain your market share, right, while focusing on profitability, then in that case, your weightage of KPIs need to shift towards maintaining market share rather than growing market share, because your incentives are tied to it, and salespeople are driven by incentives. Once they see that I need to go market share and my KPI has now shifted from, say, a top line growth to a market share growth, he needs to start working aggressively with limited customers and limited cash that is available in the market, and try and increase market share to cover for the loss in the size of the business. So this way you alter the course of the policy to ensure that the behaviors of sales team are moved in such a way, in a direction that it meets your strategic objective, or for that matter, your yearly objective. So these are, for me, some of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of sales leadership in the new now. I've written a few articles as well, I believe, as a result of this COVID. 3 different kind of professionals, 3 different kind of companies, and 3 different kind of countries will emerge. First of them are the leaders, people, countries, organizations who are anticipating changes, who are anticipating the new normal, taking a lead towards shaping that new normal, and taking not just themselves, but the industry along with it. The second type of people, organization, countries will be the typical followers. They will not take a lead, but they will always be willing to change. They will be willing to adapt because they know change is inevitable. They will follow the leaders and will still be part of the new normal. And the third team will continue to believe that once this COVID is over, when it is over, we can go back to the normal and we can go back to say the pre-January or pre-February life that we had before. For the first and two, for the first and second category, there is definitely a future. For the third category, I keep saying this, let's write their obituaries. They will not exist. And it's true for sales leaders, it's true for sales professionals, it's true for everyone. So let's be either in the leader category where we are shaping the future of our people, our company, or our industry, or at worst, let's be in the follower category where we are willing and be adaptable to change, but never be in the category of people, professionals, companies, and country, hopefully, which says we'll go back to normal, because I guarantee we won't. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wonderful, Veqar sir. Thank you so much for a fabulous keynote that you have delivered. And I know you and I, we were talking about it, and you only came to know about this, that you will have to speak for 10 to 15 minutes, and you said, okay, let me think about it. And by way of delivering the way you've delivered, it's quite fascinating to learn from a leader like yourself, from a senior executive position that you hold currently, and based on your experiences. So you've touched upon some great points. And obviously, physical world, since it has shrunk, it has brought its challenges and also the opportunities for the sales leadership today in order to adjust itself and adapt to the ways moving forward. Managing the outcome, physical presence, whether it's virtually, it used to be, in the physical way before. And really, you touched upon enablement sessions for the sales team to go through to understand the digital ways of interacting with one another. And shifting your focuses from internal to customer is also a key. You talked about economy, and last but not least, you rightly said the two top leaders, organizations, or countries will survive in the long run, and they are who are going to be taking the lead or who will follow and adapt accordingly. That there's no place going to be for the third one. So thank you very much.